Hi, my name's John of Millinery and welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time you have seen me, hi, I am John. This is my channel. We talk about hats and all sort of millinery things, and I talk a lot with my hands. You'll probably notice that. But yeah, if you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on that notification bell to be notified in future releases. I upload most weeks on Friday. If you are a long-time viewer, welcome back, and let's crack on with this video. Okay, so new setup. This is the first time I'm recording in my new place. Thank you for bearing with me last week. There was no video last week because we were moving. I was trying to figure out things. You can kind of see everything. You've got to see my lights. I need to work out how to record in this space. I'm thinking of doing a kind of workspace tour. I don't know. Anyway, but I'm back and just in time for August Birthstone. So August Birthstone is, I forgot. So August Birthstone is Peridot, which is an olive green birthstone. So I kind of wanted to go along the olive route, and yeah, so this is what we have. This didn't necessarily work out how I was expecting. I mean, she's cute, you know, she's got all this pleating, she's got like hand cut feathers, you know, and a custom band. So yeah, like cute. Not what I was imagining. So I'll put on screen now what I was actually imagining for this hat. But yeah, so if you, oh, and then we've got the curl, we've got the beads here. So we've still got some of that Peridot Birthstone in there. So if you want to see how I made this, let's get started. Okay, so to start, I'm going to be preparing the headband. So I've got this length of trim from Petersham's, which I received in a grab bag earlier this year. This is the faceted drop bead fringe on a wavy gimp braid trim, and that is in an olive colour. This is from Petersham's, so but they no longer have this colourway, but they do have 3 other colours to pick from, and it's priced at £3.50 per metre. Here I am removing the beads as we'll be using them later on, and instead I'm going to be gluing the gimp braid to the headband. So this headband I'm using is the rose gold metal headband, 5mm width, from feather.com.au, and the headband is $2.50 each. I'm using bulldog clips to hold the braid against the band while the glue dries. Next, I started on the base. So this base I'm using was previously made for my Pride video, so I wanted to make a small mock-up. So if you want to know step by step how it's made, check the card in the top right of the video, but here's a quick rundown. First of all, I made a paper pattern, cut 1 out of base fabric, which is the yellow fabric, 2 from thick heat activated interfacing, and 1 top fabric, which was a white stretch fabric. Then 1 interfacing attached to the base fabric and another interfacing on top, formed into a shape, sewn together, wired along the edge, and then topped off with a stretch fabric pulled across the base. So if you want to see this properly and fully, check that Pride video, and it's all in there. On this hat, I've cut some bias fabric into a strip just to edge the base. This will be predominantly covered, but it just gives it a nice finish. As we'll be gluing the feathers onto the hat later, I'm putting in the Petersham ribbon now, as you don't want to be sewing through glue, but this can be risky as you might change the position of the hat later and you can't change the centre back of the ribbon once it's done, but I still went ahead and did this anyway. Now for the trim. I started by adding these goose biots to the hat. So these biots are from feather.com.au also, and are priced at $5.95 for 10 grams, which was more than enough for what I needed. These will be used to section the hat, which was my initial design, as you can see here. The biots were supposed to separate the different sections, but like everything, the design changes as I went along. I wanted something along the lines of what I did in my ginseng video. So if you want to see that, that's linked as well. But for some reason, it just wasn't working out. It is quite tricky to do, as you need to hold the biot into place while the glue dries. So it's also quite time consuming. Like I say, if you want to see more of this technique, click on the link above now to watch my ginseng video. Whilst that is drying, I set on making the small feathers out of the cork feathers. Now, if you refer back to my initial design, I'll put it on the screen again, you'll notice that I wanted the feathers to have a rounded edge. However, when I got these feathers, they were very thin. Well, I say they were very thin. They weren't as wide as I thought they was going to be. These are also from feather.com.au and were priced at $4.95 for 10 grams. Maybe I ordered the wrong feathers, but these just didn't look like the cork feathers I'm used to. They kind of look rustic and not what I was expecting. So I did reach out to the supplier, so I'll let you know any updates on that. I'll put like an insert after this about that. So just a quick little update on the feathers. So I reached out to the supplier and they were great, absolutely great. Where is it? So one thing that they said was, and I didn't actually realise this neither. It's normal type of feather. The issue is the feathers I usually buy are quite a lot more expensive, and the reason for that is because they're usually hand picked. So they'll pick the best feathers out of the bunch, whereas this supplier, they don't necessarily hand pick the feathers, they just do it by weight. So you're not always guaranteed like premium grade feathers, which is why the price it was. I mean, looking at the conversion of that, the feathers were $4.95 for 10 grams. That's roughly, in pounds, because obviously I'm British, so I work in pounds, that's roughly about £2.50, which I initially didn't take that into consideration. Usually I would pay £10-12 for maybe 10 feathers of a cork feather. Maybe a little bit less. It depends who I get it from, but usually it's a higher price than £2.50 for 30 feathers. So that's where it comes into play. And you know, I went back and forth with feather.com.au, and they were great. They're sending me out. I mean, I said to them, look, I don't want any more feathers. It's perfectly fine. I'm just curious to know why there was a difference in quality. And you know, as you guys know, I'm very honest and upfront, and hopefully that comes across. But yeah, they were great, and they do theirs by weight. It does also say in the listing that it is a mix of first and second grade feathers, so do take that into consideration when purchasing. If you were wanting premium quality feathers, look for a listing which says it's hand picked, it's first grade. If you're not too fussed, then this is perfect for you. And also, you know, it boils down to the more you pay, the better it's going to be. Like, I paid $4.95. If I was to buy the same quality at an Australian price, it would probably be about $25. So that's the difference of like $20 between what... Do you see what I mean? So anything regarding the feathers, it's not on the supplier. It was me. I bought the wrong ones. I didn't check the listing correctly. I didn't look at the price because, you know, it didn't quite occur to me. I was like, oh, they're cheap. Okay, cool, perfect. I should have done more research. So please, you know, no hate to the supplier. They've been great. They're sending me some more. Even though I said I didn't want no more, they're still sending it to me. So thank you very much. I just wanted to put that in there just so then, you know, honesty, transparency. That's the reason why I personally struggled with these feathers, because I didn't check the listing correctly. I didn't quite convert it correctly, so I know for future. So after sorting out the usable feathers, I cut them into 2 to 3 centimetre smaller feathers with a straight edge and discarding any fallouts. These were then secured on some low-tack tape, and then using a gold paint pen, I edged the feather, just the cut edge, with the paint. And I used I'd say about maybe 10 feathers in total, so that was quite a lot of feathers. I mean, not you couldn't use the entire length of the feather as well, so you just need to pick and choose which feathers you're going to use. Once I'd painted all the feathers just with that edge, I then left these to dry. While they're drying, it's time to work on the pleats. So here I'm making a quick template of the sections I want to cover with the pleats, and then I'm transferring them onto some calico which has been stretched onto an embroidery hoop. I sewed the fabric onto the hoop to secure, and then I just started pleating, hiding the stitches in the folds of the pleats. These were supposed to be pin tucks, but ended up being pleats. I worked with smaller pieces of fabric as it's easier to handle, but if you run out of fabric to do it in one go, as I did a couple of times, just cut away any excess at the bottom and then pin the new fabric on top with a pleat and just carry on, and nobody will know, unless you're recording it for YouTube like I am. Remove the calico from the hoop and turn this over. You should see your guidelines from the other side. So now draw new guidelines around 1 centimetre from the original and cut out the calico, but don't cut out your pleated fabric. So don't cut into your pleated fabric. So use small scissors like I did to avoid this. Then just go through your edges and trim away any rough edges on the fabric as shown. Remember those pleats from the beginning? Now it is the time to attach them. So I decided to add them just to the back piece only, and I sewed them in randomly. So I put one seed bead and then one of the drop beads and maybe 1 or 2 of the seed beads, and then come back through just to hold it so it kind of moves and drops and it's not stuck rigid to the plates. So now you want to turn over your pleated pieces and sew the seam allowance back onto itself so it lays flat, just catching the calico, not going through onto the pleated fabric. And what this will do, this means that when it sits back on the hat, it should sit nicely and flat on the hat. So this to the hat, hiding any calico, and I actually sewed this to the top white stretch fabric so you wouldn't see the stitches on the inside of the hat. So instead of going through the calico, as I went through the fabric, the green fabric, then through on caught the white fabric, and then came back to the green fabric. So I didn't actually sew through the calico, and I didn't sew through onto the hat. It was just those two, and it just pulls it in nicely, hides the calico, and it looks great. Now you'll notice this is where the biots get hidden. The plan for originally was for the pleats to sit neatly against the biots, but I kind of like the look of the 2 ruffled edges butting up against each other, and for some strange reason it kind of reminds me of a bit like a lettuce. I don't know why, but it did. So yeah, there was that as well. To finish the hat, what I did was attach the small feathers onto the remaining clear section. So I dipped the tip into some glue and then using tweezers positioned into place, lining up the gold edges as best as possible. This also takes some patience though, so I would suggest putting on some music or listening to a podcast and just start gluing. If I had more of the feathers though that I could use, I would have trimmed some to fit the white spaces, but I still think it looks good. So as you can see, I mean, she's cute. We'll give her that. She's cute. I was a little bit like, I'm not too sure how this is going to turn out. This is the beauty of what, like, my videos that I put out. I I just make, and the video is what you see is how it happens. You know, I have a design in mind, and then as things progress, things change. So yeah. Make sure you check out all the supplies listed in the description box below, as well as links to all my social media. Thank you very much for watching. I have a couple of videos, well, I've got quite a few videos planned, because in this cupboard here is, I've got them all sorted out, ready to go. Like, yeah, I've got, like, there's one coming up in a couple of weeks, which is going to be, the hat itself is not controversial, but probably the inspiration behind it is maybe a little controversial, but I'm still going to roll with it anyway. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.